Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. We are currently Googling what news is real and what news is fake in order to figure out something to talk about this week. So,
which is way more research than we usually do.
That is very accurate.
That's because there's nothing to talk about, really. But there is. It hasn't necessarily been announced yet.
There's anything we can talk about.
Hi,
guys. Well, okay. So let's talk about everybody's weekend, I guess. Is that what we normally do at this point?
Listen. What I can talk about is I got to see Creed live.
Wait, what?
And hell yeah, brother. Tim was there. Creed was in Indianapolis. So Saturday night. Well, you were probably in the Bahamas or something weird.
Exactly where it was.
So while you were in the Bahamas on a yacht, Tim and I took a party bus with a couple buddies to Noblesville to watch Creed live in concert. And let me just tell you, it was everything that I could have ever hoped and dreamed it would be.
Everything.
I felt bad for Tim considering he didn't know any of the songs. But
how do you not know any Creed songs?
I would tell you, I could not have pointed out what a single member that. I said I did know the songs. I was just saying I could not have told you beforehand what a single member of that band looked like until I saw them on stage.
I'm gonna send you a video, James, that's going to prove Tim had no idea what was going on at any point.
I knew the songs. I just didn't know all the words.
I don't know that Tim knew anything about anything.
Well, to be fair, I feel like a lot of people don't know what they all look like. There's a lot of bands that I know songs of, but I don't necessarily know what their faces look like. I think. I don't know, actually.
Let me just tell you, like, Ruoff Music Center is a very nice, like, outdoor amphitheater. Like, they've done a good job with it. They've had some big names come there. James, you and I went and saw MGK there, which was awesome. We showed up and they were like, this is completely sold out. There is not a single ticket available. And 24,000 people.
You had tickets ahead of time, though?
Yes.
Okay. You weren't like showing up and trying to like be a walk-in. So sorry. Okay. So you pulled up and they said it was completely sold out.
No. And it was amazing because we got there. So the opener was Three Doors Down, which is also a
amazing
elite band from like my high school days. And usually people kind of are trickling in, you know, in the hour and a half after the gates open. Kind of some care about the opener, some don't. Like, no, it was full for Three Doors Down when gates opened at 7. And Creed came on at 9 and played for an hour and a half. And they ended on everything that you hoped they would end on, which was With Arms Wide Open, Higher, Amazing. My Sacrifice. And my God. It was phenomenal.
They saved all the absolute bangers for the end.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Was it
Tim? Thanks again for the invite, Alex.
Yeah.
That was one of those situations where Tim didn't really want to go. He just didn't want to miss it. It's not that he was going to enjoy it. He
had serious FOMO.
Just was going to have such bad FOMO. He couldn't not.
I was told. Yes, that's pretty fair.
That's why Tim does
I hang out with Alex.
All
He's
of
my
his
friend.
Decisions.
Sorry for wanting to hang out with my friends. Jackasses.
So anyways, that was my weekend. I did play a little bit of bocce ball with Tim on Friday night, I believe.
Yeah, that was fun.
Which was fun. And that's about it. So basically saw a lot of Tim. Then I went to the sim and that was, what it was. Tested the old thumb out. Thumb was great. Sim is still what it is. So yeah.
But most importantly, the thumb was down.
So Nolan is getting his private pilot's license.
What?
So
another one?
That. And yes, most importantly, the thumb is good. Dude, I'm just representing. I should get commission checks from the FAA.
Yeah, like whatever your like license fees are that people have to pay to get their pilot's license, you should absolutely be getting a cut from anyone that's involved in the IndyCar community.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at least 3 now that you've initiated.
I think it's 3. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, Grosjean was kind of doing it anay.
Nope.
Are you counting him?
Ed was kind of doing it anyway.
Oh, Ed was okay.
But I would say Grosjean, Ed, and
Bobby.
I'll take credit for Nolan. Bobby. Yeah, it's 4.
It's not bad, man.
McLaughlin really wants to do it. Yeah.
Cool. Big risks. I don't know. I don't like it. Pineapples. Too many drivers with planes. I don't know. But anyway, well, cool. I'm glad that Nolan, enjoyed his time riding front seat with you. I could see him being a good pilot. He seems like the kind of level-headed kid that would be really good at piloting stuff.
Yes, very smart.
All right. Well, Tim, we basically just heard all your weekend plans as well.
Yeah. You made it back from the Bahamas.
I did. Came kicking and screaming because it's just so beautiful down there. The water is so blue and so warm and so lovely. But no, had an absolute blast. Had a great time. And back to reality, just catching up on life after being away for a little bit. And helping out Becky while we were away. Becky got a bunch of auditions that came in. So we've been just knocking out auditions, which is fun sometimes. So fingers crossed on some of those.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Tim, I know that there's a project that you guys are working on together that'll probably get some life this week. And then so this is big. So you know how Alex and I took up racquetball in May and we were playing with our buddy Bobby?
Yes.
And Bobby's been obviously better. He started a lot earlier and then he was always kicking our ass. And then he was beating us, but not kicking our ass. And then he was beating us, but barely. Well, I've played the last 2 days, and the last 2 days I have beat Bobby at least one game. And I got to be honest, it feels pretty neat. It feels pretty good.
I was going to say, we got to have Bobby come on here just so you can talk to his face.
That is very cool that you finally beat him. I got close this morning. Can we talk about how we both shut you out, though?
Yeah, for sure. So I showed up late.
Goose egg.
And what's the name of that game? Like the 3-player game that we play?
I don't know. Chaos?
Is that what it's called? It's called something. So there's like a 3-player game in racquetball. And so anyway,
don't get hit in the face. Like, watch out. That's what it's called. I don't know.
Basically, yeah, it's kind of chaos. That is true. So I showed up late. So Alex and Bobby had already played a game, and so I jumped in and we do this 3-player game, and it's called like Roadkill or something. I feel like Kill's in there for some reason, which makes sense because it's just a whole lot of rackets swinging around violently and uncontrolled. But so you have to
so far. I'm on board fully so far.
Yeah. So you rotate through the serves, and so you've got to be serving to get a point. And you play to 15, and I got shut out for the first time ever. I got completely shut out. And then we played the second game, and I won. So it was a nice comeback, I got to say. It was a nice comeback. But no, everybody was playing well. And then Alex left, and I played Bobby again, and I managed to win that one.
Oh, you did? Oh, so you're on like a hot streak of beating Bob.
Oh yeah, it was close again though. He was up like 9-2, and I rallied back and won.
Nice. You don't have that quit in you. That's pretty good.
So we're going back racing at the Wave Gate this weekend, and Alex is making his. It's not even triumphant return because you didn't technically race in Toronto, but triumphant return, and everybody's excited about that. I don't know, thoughts, feelings, concerns heading into Gateway?
Lots of concerns about everything that we've talked about for the past couple months about ovals and IndyCars, but we're not going to talk about that. Let's be optimistic. There's been many a test at Gateway, trying to resolve some of the known issues. There's been a lot of ideas thrown around. Some hilarious, some actually with some merit. And I think everyone realizes there's a problem. I don't think anyone knows how to fix it. So we're doing what we can for the time being. So I'll leave it at that. I'm obviously thrilled to get back into a car. I'm thrilled, we talked about it last week, but it's great that, I was in the sim yesterday. Thumb is in very good shape, played racquetball today. So, we're good to go there. And since we're talking about Gateway, and since we're talking about, IndyCar news and everything, why don't we talk about the news that just broke on the internet
Pretty big news
about old boy David Malukas, where Gateway is probably his most famous track, just in terms of, I think he's gotten top fives there in every single thing that he started in, even back to Indy Lights. He just announced a multi-year deal with AJ Foyt Racing. So I don't know if anyone saw that coming, but that is on the internet.
So did you see it coming? Did you have any, look, the silly season is been pretty silly. You are a part of it. So you're obviously having conversations that, aren't public to the internet and other people. Was this something you had any inkling was coming? Because I think on the outside looking in, which I'll say I looked at what he was doing at Shank, and I think people would agree he was kind of outperforming what was maybe predicted of him coming back from his injury. And why wouldn't you have stayed there? But obviously the Penske thing's part of it, but did you have any idea that this was coming?
I did a couple for a couple days, but not like a massive amount of time. I think there's a lot of things to be said for it. Number one is, yes, obviously there's a Penske relationship, which I don't know that anyone really knows how in depth that is, but certainly it's something. And you got to give props to Santino, right? And look at what he's done this year, regardless of whether it's a Foyt Penske car or not. He is top 10 in points in a AJ Foyt racing car, which is a huge step from where they were. He's ahead of both MSR cars. Now, obviously, that's not super fair to the 66, but he's ahead of the other one as well. So I don't know. I feel like as much as David has, obviously shown a lot of good things since coming back from his injury, I think, Foyt deserves the credit because they've shown a lot of good things from the start of the season. So and I don't know. Yes, I think it was a surprise for sure. But when you step back and look at it, I think it makes some sense.
The thing that's crazy to look at when it comes to Santino and where he's at in the championship is, not to take anything away from him on road and street tracks, but I think he's more known for his oval, results. And when you look at where we are in the calendar, we've got 5 races to go. So first of all, to be in the top 10 with 5 races to go, very impressive. And to do it when 4 of the last 5 races are ovals, which we know he's good at. I would put money down today that Santino is going to finish in the top 10 in points, which is impressive, man. That's a hard thing to do in this series. And with the kind of tracks we got coming up, 5 to go, I don't see why he won't. And that definitely is something that, I'm sure the Malukas camp was looking at, and the Penske connection is definitely not something you can ignore. Mike Cannon being part of that organization on the engineering front is not something you can ignore. So pretty cool, man. That was a weird, kind of a weird one, kind of an unexpected one, but I like how it sort of shakes everything up a little bit. And look forward to seeing.
I also love how it was one of those things. We had it last year with the Fittipaldi Rahal announcement. Like, it was actually kept a secret. Like, it wasn't leaked days before, there wasn't like, it was the announcement was kind of a waste of everyone's time because everyone's known this is what was happening. This was another one that was like, it hits the internet and you're like, damn, like that was a well-kept secret.
It was a bombshell.
Yeah. Good on everyone for keeping their mouth shut.
Yeah, it's not easy to do these days in the world of modern technology and everybody having access to everything at all times. But no, it'd be cool, man. They didn't specify whether he was in the 14 or the 41, so still kind of TBD what's happening with the second Foyt car. And yeah, it's one more domino falls in the silly season driver market. So the other news driver-wise going into Gateway is the departure officially of Agustin Canapino from Juncos Hollander Racing, which, again, another one that I'm not sure. That one's a tough one because there was the whole Road America thing, which was obviously very strange. And then for weird reasons, under weird circumstances, whatever. But then, we had news that Connor Daly had gone and tested the 78 at Gateway, and then shortly thereafter that Canapino was out. which then led to the announcement that Connor Daly is in the car for Gateway, which again is no surprise. So this is what happens. And Alex, this is what I want to get your take on. Well, I think, first of all, we're obviously very happy for Connor. It was great to talk to him the other day about it. And he runs well at this racetrack. He's had some great results here. But this all kind of stems from a frantic race at the back of the field to stay in the Leader Circle program. So, just for anybody that doesn't know, Leader Circle is a kind of performance incentive, goes to the top 22 car points, like owners points. And it's about $1 million worth of cash and discounts and goods, applied towards the next season. So it's not an insignificant initiative for teams to be a part of. And when you're flirting down in 21st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th in car points, you start thinking about what you can do late in the season to get your car back up in that realm. I think first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Augustine for what he did in his time on IndyCar. It was super impressive making that jump so late in his career. And, I thought he did it very well and adapted very well, all things considered. But he'd had to have a rough couple races, and the car was, at risk of not being in the club for next year. So big moves coming out of JHR to address that. But Alex, my question to you is, how do we feel about this? Like, how do we feel about the fact that drivers are given contracts, and by a certain point of the season, now again, we don't know if there was a provision in his contract that said, hey, we can move you out of the seat if we're under threat for losing Leader Circle. Maybe there was. I imagine that's something that's starting to be more prevalent in driver contracts. But how do we feel in general about having a system where drivers in that 21st to 24th bubble can kind of just be moved around like chess pieces if the team's really struggling to stay inside the Leader Circle package?
So that's a very hard question to answer because of the very reason that we don't know the details of how said agreement was severed, right? If it was, this isn't good enough, we're unhappy, get out, that's maybe not right. And that shouldn't be a thing. But if it's, hey, we're not happy, thanks so much, here's the rest of your salary for the year, get out, it's a different conversation. It's no different than, James, you and I've talked about this before, an NFL player, right? Not performing, team benches him, says you're done, or lets him go, even trades him, lets him go. That team is still on the hook for paying the duration of the salary for whatever term they agreed upon. And so they have every right to cut ties with that player, but they still have to pay him because that's what they signed up for. So in racing, it should be the same. If the team isn't happy, if the driver isn't meeting the expectations and the purchase of the team in terms of the driver wasn't what they thought it should be, that's okay. But the driver needs to get paid because otherwise what's the point of a contract in the first place? So I guess we don't know the details of it. And no one will ever know. So I don't have an opinion either way. I would just say from, sport in general, racing shouldn't be any different to what we all know is public information with other sports contracts.
Yeah. And that's just it, right? It's you hate seeing drivers lose opportunities, but, you kind of use that other sports reference, right? If a player's not performing, they get benched. But to your point, they're not necessarily cut from the team. And even if they are, their contracts and from a salary standpoint are honored. I know that's certainly not how it has been in the past.
It's almost like they have a something like a players association, something called the NFLPA that protects things like this.
I was thinking about the NHLPA or the MLBPA or the any other pro sport PA. But it's whatever. No big deal.
Tim, you're muted and talking, which is my favorite version of you.
I was just saying it seems like almost all of them have one, which is weird.
Crazy.
I mean,
yeah, but how are they doing though?
Even called the F1. There's one called the F1DA. I don't know.
The GPDA, you mean?
Or GPDA.
Shouldn't you know that? Weren't you part of that? Yeah.
But yes. I sure was. The old GPDA, whatever.
Oh, yes. But yeah, anyway, so that's happy for Conor. Hope that Augustine is proud of what he accomplished in the time he was in IndyCar, because genuinely, I think it was a huge task to do what he did, and he did it pretty well. So yeah, we'll see how the race plays out. It's something that we're not sure, but look, man, there's been a lot of times where we've gone to events, and I'm not saying we being like you and I or the show or whatever, just in general, with a bit of a doom and gloom attitude about how things might turn out. And we're often completely wrong, and we're showing a really great event. So anyway, so that's Gateway coming up. The only racing that anyone paid attention to, I think, last weekend was the Cup race. And by that, I mean the end of the Cup race. And Alex, why don't you give a little description about what happened there at the end?
Well, all right. So Richmond, I've never raced there. I don't know much about it. I didn't watch the race. I only watched highlights Sunday evening of everything that happened at the end of the race. And here's what happened. So Austin Dillon, who, let's be honest, is not a
Hall of Famer.
Let me say this whole statement. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's not the best racing driver that is in Cup. But from what everyone has said and kind of from the highlights that I've watched, he was really good on Sunday night in Richmond. Like, he was a strong car. He was in contention for the win. NASCAR overtime rules kind of took the win away from him in the sense that he was leading the race kind of when it ended. And the overtime restart is really where Logano kind of got by him. And they were coming to the checkered flag on the last lap of overtime. And Austin did the old dump and run that we've seen before in Cup, but this one seemed a little bit more aggressive in the sense that he was much farther back. It's not like he was kind of he wasn't on someone's bumper into three and then kind of just moved him up the track a little bit. This was like, he didn't brake and just used Logano as his brake. But like, okay, I kind of am like, yeah, I mean, that's Cup. Like, we've seen a lot of similar things to that. It's really hard to like make a rule. Oh, if you come from 2 car lengths back versus 1 car length back, that's bad. Where it got a little controversial for me was after he dumped Logano for the win. Denny was kind of just running on the inside, and his spotter, which is, it's all public audio, was literally yelling, "Wreck him, wreck him, wreck him."
Dylan spotter.
Dylan spotter. So Dylan drove into the outside rear quarter panel of Denny and turned him into the wall. And so essentially in 70 feet, dumped 2 cars for the win. And listen, it's really not Austin's fault, because if NASCAR doesn't penalize him, that's the precedent that they're going to set. And really, like, then he did what NASCAR is about. There's a lot of people that are on the internet that are very upset about it, because in their mind, that's not real racing. That's just a demolition derby. That's not what the sport is about. Even though NASCAR is a contact sport, there needs to be like some finesse to it and not just mass casualties of taking cars out sort of thing. So I don't know. I don't love that Austin did it, but then if he didn't get penalized, then like, it's kind of on everyone else to realize that's how they're racing now. And it's what we've talked about in IndyCar, right? Like, IndyCar race controls made it very clear that you can run people off the road, and whether you like that or not is kind of irrelevant. If that's the rule, then you as the car that are on the inside and potentially being overtaken on the outside, like, you need to be, using people up in order to defend your position. So if NASCAR is saying to get into the playoffs, because that's the format we have set, you can pretty much do whatever you want, especially in an overtime finish. We like the drama. We like that for the fans. Then, like, more power to them.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about it, and there's 36 Cup races a year. We probably talk about 5 of them. So in some sense, from the NASCAR standpoint, I can see why they're maybe not super quick to get involved. I think the big thing to kind of look at, and as you say, there is this culture of it, right? Of the bump and run. But I think, having obviously neither of us have this experience, Which kind of listening to guys and having talked to guys in the past, there's a big difference between a bump and run and a dump and run, right? Like getting a guy loose in the corner and moving him up the racetrack a lane and getting by is one thing. But having a guy just, like you say, from 2 car lengths back, just hit you so hard you spun him out and then put another guy in the, like, that's a bit of a different deal. I think if Logano finishes second in that race, we're applauding Dylan. Now with what happened, everyone's, kind of vilified him and maybe it is deserved, maybe it's not. But to your point, if nothing's done about it, it's not going to stop. And this isn't just a race win that they're going for. This is a place in the playoffs, right? You're talking about a driver that was well below the cut line. And now all of a sudden he shows up and is jeopardizing another driver who was up there in points, but now doesn't have the win. And so it makes it a little bit complicated. And I wonder if NASCAR, if there's a way to look at, how the playoffs are set and maybe something about the format of it that can potentially stop these like crazy desperate moves that we see late in the season.
Where I think you could maybe do something about it is like, instead of a win and you're guaranteed a spot, it should still just be based on the total season points, right? Like, you could be a car that's been very strong all year, haven't gotten the win for whatever reason, X, Y, and Z, and you should still be in the playoffs, versus a guy who, to all credit to Austin, like I said, he was strong in Richmond, but potentially will be the only race he's up front fighting for a win all year. It's like, why is he potentially more deserving of someone who's been a top 8 car all weekend, but just hasn't had the stars align, as we all know is very difficult in NASCAR, to get a win. So like, I think that's where you can address it, because then you don't have the desperation just to win a race, right?
I think that's a great point, but I think the way to do it is that wins still give you playoff points, right? So there's still an incentive. There's still something that a driver with a couple of wins is going to walk into the playoffs with a bit of an advantage. But yeah, that drivers that, wasn't it 2 years ago that like Blaney like snuck into the playoffs on points because he didn't win a race, and then fast forward a year and the guy's the champion. Like there is something about that system that gets these undeserving's the wrong word, but less deserving, I'll go with that, teams into the playoffs. And it creates these kind of bullshit scenarios that you start seeing at this time of the year. I don't know.
There's a second part of this controversy that I've just seen today. Was it Joey Logano or who was it that pulled up near the people celebrating in the pit and then did a burnout to kind of just get the tire smoke on them? And if you watch the onboard, like, he's driving pretty close to people in the pit. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of penalty on there. Have you guys seen that? Do you have a reaction on that?
I have not seen that.
I'll find it.
Yeah, didn't see it, but there should be. I mean, anytime you've got people, messing around with race cars in pit lane with exposed people, that sucks. The other thing to consider, right? And if you're Austin, it's like, okay, cool. You're in the playoffs now at the risk of the guarantee that you don't make it out of the first round, right? So like, is it worth it? Because he's got 2 drivers already that are going to guarantee that he does not make it out of round 1. And, 2 guys 0-1, they can do that cleverly. And if the first round, if it's 3 races and 2 of them you're DNFing, you better win the 3rd one or else it's game over. So like, he's now got such a big target on his back, it makes it even tougher.
You ain't wrong. So that's NASCAR. F1's obviously still on a break. I want to touch quickly on the Olympics. I've always been a fan of the Olympics because I'm an American and I like sports and all this sort of thing. But admittedly, have always preferred Winter Olympics a little bit more. But would still pay attention to the Summer Olympics. But pay attention in the sense that I would watch the primetime news coverage at the end of the day, the 2-hour kind of NBC or whatever footage where they were showing highlights of what Team USA did or any big storylines of the day. And that was always cool, but I would never watch really anything more than that. Well, what NBC and Peacock did this year was potentially one of the coolest things that I've ever seen done for the Olympics or sports in general. And the access that they gave to watching all of the events what they did with the gold zone, which was taking the NFL's concept of the red zone, bringing the same voice in for that and creating a whole day, essentially highlight show of what was going on in Paris, introduced me to completely new sports that I would have never watched otherwise, new athletes, and I've just a newfound passion for the Olympics. Cause also like I would watch events from start to finish because it's way different to watch, I don't know, shot put from start to finish. And cause you get invested in the athletes and their story and, you know, what attempt they're on and the distance that they're going for and all this sort of thing, pole vault, that sort of thing. And it was really, really cool to watch it in that way versus just see a couple minute highlights from storylines through the day. So huge shout out to NBC and Peacock, because I actually miss it. Like that was a part of my daily thing is I would sit down and watch the Olympics for a couple hours, mostly because I had to keep my thumb elevated and iced for the majority of that entire time. But nonetheless, kind of fell in love with it and thought it was an amazing event. And yeah, can't wait for LA 28.
So now that you've brought it up, so you said you got introduced to some new sports and new athletes, whatever. What's one sport that you kind of left this Olympics with a new appreciation for and something you might actually follow in the future?
Oh, follow in the future? I don't know if I'm
like at the next Olympics. No, but like in the next Olympics, you'd be like, oh, that was really cool. Man. I'm definitely going to check that one out.
Shoot. Like true pole vault, like start to finish. Everyone watches gymnastics, swimming, track and field, whatever. So like, yes, obviously those, was really into the discus throw, slalom kayaking, speed climbing was sick. The target shooting was the air pistol shooting was badass. I even watched Olympic lifting. Dude, I watched the marathon. I literally sat there and watched people run for 2.5 hours, and it was like a lights out finish in the women's marathon. Like it came down to the line and it was awesome. Like the lady that won, like was taking the fastest trajectory, like in the least amount of distance to like the chicanes. And the girl in front of her was like throwing blocks. Like she actually had to push her out of the way at the end of a marathon. Like it was just cool. Like honestly, like I tried to watch like as much as I could humanly watch with the time that I had available. And I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to watch new sports. I didn't watch breakdancing because that's just dumb.
But you clearly heard about what happened with breakdancing.
Fencing. Yes. Fencing.
That video is so good, though.
I'm never going to get behind fencing until it's to the death. So yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. Tim, what about you? Did you have any sports that stood out?
I tried
to watch the Olympics with Tim, and he was uninterested every time.
Yeah. I mean, there was some cool stuff.
At the Creed concert.
Yeah.
I barely follow racing, and I have to.
True.
No, I did watch some fencing with Hazel, so she was pointing out the footwork and things like that. But no, I generally don't really care much. I like watching the opening and closing ceremonies of the Olympics. That's it for me.
Woof.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. Sorry. You're on a sports podcast. You know that, right? All right.
Yes, I'm the athlete that brings people here. All right. Well, Alex has got to go. So
any closing thoughts? Speaking of closing ceremonies.
Look, I thought I'm going to echo your sentiments about the work that everybody at NBC did. Obviously, a lot of my colleagues were involved, both on air and not. It was great to hear Diff calling track and field as always. Cool to see Tarico doing his thing, running the show, Sarsniak, everybody that we've had a chance to work with at different points. It's awesome to see. And then I know a lot of people behind the scenes on the production side that got to be involved, whether they were on the ground in Paris or at NBC headquarters up in Stamford. And everybody's just so excited, man. Like it's one of those things that everyone's really proud to have it on their resume, that, hey, I got to work the Olympics, because it is a really cool thing to do. And the Jordan Childs thing was that really sucked for her. I feel very bad about that. Handball is a cooler sport than I thought. Serves and ping pong are very bizarre. And breakdancing. What a gas. What a gas. At least, hey, Canada won gold in the men's.
I'm a ray gun. I'm a ray gun fan now. All right. I'll see you guys in St. Louis.
God willing. We'll see you out there. Good luck, Alex.